Hola. This video is a demonstration of a task that we're working with here at the beginning of the second semester of Spanish 1. The idea is to transition students from writing about individual sentences to trying paragraphs. So in order to do that, I think this is a easy to do drill and a low stress one that can be kind of fun and help students really work on writing as much as they can without worrying about being perfect. So the situation is I will find random images online, and a student will see this picture and then have 3 minutes to write as much as they can about it. Part of what makes this a creative writing drill instead of focused on reality is that we don't have a clue who these people are. So students are allowed to write anything that comes to their mind that has something to do with something in the picture. All right, they can make up information, names, where the people are, etc., any logical details that seem to make sense. So this gives them a freedom to simply work on writing what they're able to write instead of being tied down to a situation where they're forced to know particular details that are true and what are the facts of their life. So a student would get 3 minutes, and the goal they'd be informed of is to simply communicate as many details as you can. So the more details, the more words, the better. With no access to notebooks or electronic devices or asking anyone how to say anything. It's simply an activity. If you know how to write it, go for it. And if you do not, well, you'll have to try to think of a different detail to mention. So I've included a sample paragraph here that I wrote just as an example that a student might achieve during the 3 minutes. We're looking at a goal of 30 to 50 words, although that goal seldom gets achieved in the early days of doing this project. Students need to get used to the format and really be willing to cut loose with the Spanish language. So I'll just translate what the fictional student has written here. Okay, you see in the picture there are many people. It's one detail. They're men. The men are eating. That's third. In a restaurant in Chicago. 4 and 5 details. On the front, there's a man with a big hair, maybe a lot of hair or something. That's okay, kind of. 6th detail. His name's Robert, 7th. Robert's 43. All right. He lives with his mother. Hey, that's cool. That's all right. Hey, mom needs company. 9 details. Because he doesn't have a wife or a girlfriend. Okay, well, that explains living with mother there, saving rent, cut back on expenses a little bit. There are 11 details in this paragraph here, and so if I were to evaluate this in communication, the writers attempted to tell me 11 things. How many of them actually worked? Well, looking back at it, the main point of confusion is this phrase here. First off, we're talking now about a specific man amongst the group, and I'm pretty sure I know who it is because I'm told in the front. So it would appear to be, I think it's the guy looking right here at the camera. I don't know if it would be this person here behind, and we don't see this man's face, so that seems unlikely. But I believe the writer intends this man to be Robert. It's just a weird, all big hair. That doesn't make sense the way that's worded. It would cause confusion. I'd consider that a communication error. And this writer has achieved 10 out of 11 in terms of accuracy with communication, what worked and what didn't work. So that's approximately 91%. A minus in communication. Now, in order to perfectly understand, I'd have to go back to that student and ask them, what did you really mean to say? And we'd have to use English to sort it out, which is not the goal of learning a foreign language. In a foreign language, you're just going to have to accept that sometimes communication doesn't work. People walk away confused. Things don't get sorted out. Okay, but the issue here is, how did they do with perfection? Because of course people always want to use the language correctly, it would seem. Well, let's go back through it and fix a few things here. First mistake we've got is en la foto. Well, Spanish does not have a PH, so that should have been an F. In la foto, there's one error. Also here we've got multiple people, okay, but the writers use the masculine form of many, which would seem to make sense because they're men, except in Spanish the word person is always female, even when the people are male. So it should have been muchas personas. They're men. That makes perfect sense to me, except this is the wrong version of are. Spanish has two different ways to say the verb to be. This should have been son. It's a third mistake. It was son hombres. Here in the next sentence, I see the men are eating, except ando, which does mean ing, is not the correct form of the ing because to eat is an er verb, so that should have been the ending iendo. Comiendo, little verb conjugation issue there. That's four. They're eating in the restaurant in Chicago. This word is not the correct word. The restaurant in Chicago. I may have grown up in a small town and not be too familiar with big cities, but I'm pretty sure Chicago has more than one restaurant. Unless there's one restaurant out there that like everyone in Chicago knows, it is the restaurant, the place to be. I mean, if you don't eat there, you're nobody. I'm ignorant of that, so I'm just a little confused. I'm not part of that social circle. I wouldn't know what restaurant this is. I think the writer means un in a restaurant in Chicago. So we're up to four. Nice transition here to say in the front. Okay, get in the front foreground of the picture. There's a man, but then we fell apart with a big hair. I'm assuming we're talking about this gentleman here, and he does not have a lot of hair. They're quite receding hairline. Not that there's anything wrong with that. He's got a nice shiny forehead there. I think we're going, maybe the student just confused on their hair words and wanted to say bigote, big mustache. Because when I look at that guy, I mean, that stands right out there. That stash really gets your attention. So we've got 5 mistakes there, and that was the biggest one, the communication error. His name's Robert. All right. Robert is 43. Okay. The issue with that is in Spanish, you don't use the word is for age. You say have. Somebody has a certain amount of years. So it should have been tiene. Roberto tiene 43 años. Then I look at this word and it does not confuse me because I think obviously the person did not mean this. It's very much biologically impossible. I think they meant 43 years, but in Spanish, they need to use the enye, or the N with the tilde there, because años with that tilde means years. But if we get rid of that, it's a, how do I explain this? That is a certain part of somebody's anatomy that it is just biologically impossible for anyone to possibly have even 2, let alone 43. So I'm certain the writer meant years, and we'll move on and not talk about the anatomy with that. So we're up to, I believe, 6 mistakes. Okay, he lives with his mother, so that's the 7th mistake. Oh no, it's not. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to live with mom. That we're still at 6, but the word because is one word. It should be combined. Up to 7 there because he doesn't have. Okay, this verb was not changed. This says because he doesn't to have. So that needed to be conjugated and matched up with the pronoun he. Brings us up to 8 mistakes, I believe, which is really good perfection-wise. Did we miss anything? I don't think I did. If that miscounted there, estimating here, that's a 42 out of 50 in terms of perfection, which is way higher than my students would get at this point. But if I'd have made more mistakes, this video would have lasted even longer. So just to provide the sample here, that would be a B, 84% accuracy. So it's a good thing that we're not scoring these paragraphs on accuracy. That's not the purpose of this. Perfection was not the goal. If perfection is the goal for something, you don't give people 3 minutes only, no access to notes, no time to revise, no time to get peer corrections, and then a random picture they had no way of knowing that that was what they would have to write about. Perfection wasn't the goal. It's just something you can kind of check on here, and communication was. So here we had a student who in 3 minutes was able to communicate 10 details, although really missed out on the important mentioning of that classic mustache right there. But nevertheless, 10 details. Only one thing was miscommunicated, and this activity really helps students understand that you can make mistakes with the language, a lot of them, many times, and still be understood. And that's an important lesson for students, especially when you're sitting in an academic class and you're expected to study material right as you're going through it, a lot of tests, a lot of emphasis on being accurate with it, which is fine when you're breaking the language down and looking at a phrase, a sentence, a list of vocabulary. But when you move to a paragraph and you want students to communicate quickly, you've just got to be able to cut loose with the language and not be shy or concerned that your mistakes would ruin your communication or make you look foolish. Hope this helps. This is something that easily can be practiced at home. Just find any random picture from your family collection or get online and sit down with a paper and pencil and start writing. 3 minutes. Don't look up any details and just really focus on writing what you can. And that takes some getting used to. Everyone wants to write what they want to write. They want to say, hey, I want to talk about that guy's tie in the background and how crooked it is there. But then my students would say, a semester in, we haven't gone over clothing yet, so that's not a possibility. Okay, we're like, oh, what are they eating here? I want to mention that. Well, also, half a year in, we have not had that list yet. So you've got to write what you can and avoid what you can't. And as you grow with the language, you'll continue to get new sentences and new avenues of description and build and build and build your fluency.